I still remember that morning like it just happened yesterday. The sound of chainsaws ripping through the air, the dull crack of wood splitting apart, and then silence. My yard looked like a war zone. The bonsai tree I'd cared for years, a century, old living sculpture sitting in a handmade porcelain pot, was gone, shredded, destroyed. And the people who did it, three men in matching shirts with the logo of the local HOA, were laughing, packing up their tools, loading the remains of my tree into the back of a pickup. When I yelled, "What the hell are you doing on my property?" one of them just shrugged and said, "Orders from the HOA president." The crazy part? I wasn't even part of the HOA. I live in a quiet neighborhood called Willow Creek, right outside of Dallas. My lot was a little slice of freedom, 1 acre of land, technically outside the HOA borders. That was the whole reason I bought it. No committees, no petty fines, no nosy board members telling me what color to paint my fence. Just peace, grass, and a tree I loved like family. The bonsai had been here before me, planted by the original owner 50 years ago. And I'd spent hours every weekend pruning it, shaping it, keeping it alive. It wasn't just a tree, it was history. And then came her, Madeline Brooks, president of the Willow Creek HOA, a name whispered with eye rolls and forced smiles. You know the type, pressed blazer, sunglasses, clipboard always in hand, walking like she owned every square inch of the subdivision. The first time she showed up at my gate, she didn't even introduce herself, just pointed at my yard and said, "Mr. Blake, that tree of yours violates sightline standards for the neighborhood. You'll need to remove it." I laughed. Honestly, that's not your jurisdiction, ma'am. I'm not part of your HOA. She gave me that cold, smug smile, the kind that says, "I always get my way." "Well," she replied, "your property borders our community. Technically, it affects neighborhood aesthetics. We'll consider this a courtesy warning." I brushed it off. Just another self-appointed neighborhood cop with too much time. But over the next few days, I started noticing weird things. A couple of HOA officers parked near my driveway, taking pictures. A letter on my door that read, "Violation notice." Even a fine slip, a fine, for unauthorized landscaping obstruction. I called the HOA office, explained again that I didn't belong to them, and the woman on the phone just sighed and said, "You'll need to speak directly with Mrs. Brooks." I told her, "No, you need to tell Mrs. Brooks to stop harassing me." I should have known better. That woman didn't know the meaning of boundaries. A week later, I found a letter that chilled me to my core, a mandatory compliance demand, giving me 7 days to remove the offending tree or face further action. That's when I realized Madeline wasn't bluffing. She was coming after me. Then came the day everything broke. Monday morning. I was working from home when I heard engines outside, 3 trucks, big and loud. I went out and saw them, workers in HOA uniforms unloading chainsaws, heading straight for my yard. I ran toward them, yelling, "Stop! This is private property!" But they ignored me. One guy, maybe their foreman, turned and said, "We were hired to remove it. Talk to the HOA president." And there she was, standing across the street, arms folded, sunglasses reflecting the chaos she'd just caused. She didn't flinch, didn't even look guilty. She just watched as my bonsai, my tree, fell piece by piece. I called the police. When the officers arrived, Madeline walked right up to them before I could even speak. "This man's tree is a safety hazard," she said, smiling. "We were ensuring compliance for the community." I shouted, I'm not part of your community. But one of the officers just sighed, saying they'd need to verify property lines before doing anything. I could tell he didn't want to get involved. Nobody wants to mess with a Karen in a power suit. That night, I sat on my porch staring at the empty patch of dirt where the tree had been. The porcelain pot, shattered. Its pieces scattered like bones. I felt hollow. I'd lost something deeply personal, something living, and all I had left was a mess and a stack of violation papers from a woman who didn't even own the right to breathe near my property. I'll be honest, for a few days, I wanted to just let it go. My wife told me to move on, said it wasn't worth the stress. And, for a moment, I almost believed her. Maybe I was being stubborn. Maybe if I'd just let them have their neighborhood aesthetic, this wouldn't have happened. But then I saw Madeline again, at the grocery store. She looked me right in the eye and said, with that venomous smirk, "See? The neighborhood looks better already." That was it. Something inside me snapped, not out of rage, but out of clarity. She'd crossed a line, and if I let her get away with it, she'd do it again, to someone else. So I decided I was going to fight her, not by yelling or stooping to her level, but the right way. I started documenting everything. I had photos of the tree before and after, timestamps, even a receipt proving that bonsai was appraised at over $15,000. My next door neighbor, bless his soul, had caught the whole destruction on his security camera, including a clear shot of Madeline supervising. I filed a police report for property destruction and trespassing. Then I posted the footage on a local community group online, with the caption, "HOA destroyed my property. I'm not even part of their HOA." Within hours, the post blew up. Hundreds of comments. People from nearby neighborhoods chimed in with their own HOA horror stories. Turns out, Madeline had been terrorizing half the town for years, sending fines for grass height, threatening lawsuits over mailbox colors, even demanding one couple repaint their house because the shade of blue was too cheerful. The local news picked up my story. One evening, a reporter stood right there in front of my house with a mic, saying, "A local HOA accused of overstepping boundaries, literally." The next morning, Madeline's office voicemail must have exploded. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. But she wasn't the kind of person who backed down. A few days later, I got a letter from the HOA's attorney demanding I take down my post or face defamation charges. I laughed out loud. My lawyer, Angela Torres, a sharp as a knife property attorney, sent back a single-page response. Bring it to court. Angela dug deep. She found something even worse. The HOA had secretly expanded their jurisdiction map a year ago, illegally, to include parts of land they didn't own. My land. They'd literally redrawn the map in their internal records to make it look like I was part of them. Fraud. Clear and simple. When the lawsuit went public, Madeline lost her mind. She called me in the middle of the night, screaming. "You're destroying this community over a damn plant," I said. "No, Madeline, you destroyed it yourself. I'm just showing people the roots." The trial was brutal, but short. Madeline walked in, wearing that same smug look she'd worn when she watched my tree fall. She had two lawyers beside her, both looking like they knew they were about to lose. When the judge asked her if she'd authorized the removal of my tree, she said yes, but only because it was necessary for safety. Then Angela played the footage, Madeline standing there, giving the workers directions, not a hint of concern on her face. You could feel the air change in that courtroom. The judge leaned forward, eyebrows raised. "Mrs. Brooks, were you aware this property was outside your HOA's jurisdiction?" Madeline stammered. I Was informed it might be, but, but you ordered the removal anyway? She didn't answer. She didn't have to. The video said it all. The ruling was swift. The HOA was ordered to pay for full damages, legal fees, and emotional distress. Madeline was personally fined for abuse of authority and stripped of her position as president. I didn't cheer. I didn't need to. Watching her pack her things and walk out of that courtroom, face pale and eyes down, was more satisfying than any victory speech. A few weeks later, I replaced the bonsai pot. Not with the same one, you can't replace something like that, but with a smaller tree, young and green, still finding its shape. I set it right where the old one used to stand, and every time I water it, I think about that day, about how close I came to letting someone like her make me feel powerless. The neighborhood still talks about what happened. Some people say I overreacted. Others thank me quietly, saying it was about time someone stood up to her. I don't care much what they think. All I know is, the air feels lighter now. No more letters taped to my door. No more trucks idling by my fence. No more woman in sunglasses pretending she's the sheriff of suburbia. The last time I saw Madeline was months later, at the farmer's market. She avoided my eyes, hurried past, clutching her tote like it was armor. I didn't say a word, just watched her fade into the crowd, smaller than I'd ever seen her. And as I turned back toward my car, I realized that bonsai, in its quiet resilience, had taught me something. When someone tries to cut down what's yours, you don't just plant roots, you grow stronger around them.